for the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame to the 43rd annual induction ceremonies. My name is Mark Thomas, and I'm with the Press Association. It's Oliver C. Murray. Ollie, come on. Listen up, Tom. He joined the newsroom at WKY, which is now KFOR, in 1968 after serving in the Army and became the first African-American photojournalist in the city. He held many positions, including chief news photographer and production operation manager in a 38-year career. He became a force in the newsroom as a role model for minorities, and with the advent of electronic journalism, he helped pioneer live news coverage, commanding the station in Oklahoma's first live truck. Oliver? Or Ollie? Come
Both
on.
ways is correct.
Both ways is correct. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Take your time. Take your time.
I've been asked to keep this short by my family, but since I am the head of the family now, I don't have to listen to it anymore. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Polly, you better talk fast.
Thank you very much. And I will talk fast. First of all, I would like to have, if you don't mind, all of the photojournalists, journalists, writers, people that I worked with in the early part of my career at the state capitol, covering City Hall, and other various and sundry places, please stand up. Please. All of them. Thank you very much. Young lady, all of those people. I also want to thank Pam Henry, who's here with us today, the first female, very first female TV reporter in Oklahoma. Pam Henry. A lot of firsts, isn't it? A lot of firsts. Things that we did back in the day, they never even thought that we would ever do it. Another first. Jerry Love, would you please stand? Jerry Love is the man that was responsible for all the trucks that I went up and down the street in doing live shots. It was his knowledge, his skills that built those trucks that allowed us to go live for the very first time. We could take you to the story instead of you reading about it the next day. Jerry, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'd also like to thank my son and my daughter, Oliver and Ann, for never fussing at their daddy getting them out of the bed at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because my phone went off. I was a single parent. They had to go with their daddy to make a living. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. And for all the people that gave me a helping hand along the way and guided me, thanks again, and I never did think I'd get here. Thank you.
My name is Oliver Murray. I started to work at WKY TV September the 16th, 1968. I've been home from the war about maybe, 4 or 5 months. When I first got in, my mother told me that television station WKY and KWTV both were trying to get a hold of me. And I just got home and I really didn't want to do any work at that particular time, so I sort of sat back and then I went out and found another job. And the job that I found was a good paying job, a good job, but they decided to move all of their work and everything to Texas, and I didn't want to leave Oklahoma again for a while. Like I said, I've been gone for a couple, 2 or 3 years. So I went out to WKY, walked in the door, and at that time a gentleman by the name of Ernie Shilks met me at the door, and he took me around to Jay Spivey, and Jay Spivey and I talked for a few minutes, and surprising to me, he said, when can I start to work? And I said, well, I can start Monday if you need me. I don't know anything about it. He said, well, don't worry about that. We'll teach you everything that you need to know. And that's basically how I started off at WKY. Based on what I've heard, that they were looking for a few good men, and I guess I was one of the good men that they were looking for. I started to work on stage where I learned how to operate studio cameras. One of the best jobs I think I've ever had in my entire life, to work there doing shows like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning doing the farm show with Russell Pearson, and you know, and well, staying around sometime to 1 or 2 o'clock, not all the way through, but you worked every shift when you worked on stage. You wasn't confined to working days or what have you. They just assigned you wherever they needed you to. I've had the pleasure of working shows like Saturday Night Live Wrestling at WKY, where watch out for flying chairs, and if you didn't watch the wrestling match, you don't know what I'm talking about. And that would be the way Danny Williams would always sign off the show after every Saturday Night Wrestling, is watch out for the flying chairs. Had a chance to work with 3D Danny also, Steve Powers, Farmer Scotty, as a lot of you will know, Count Dracula. You know, these are the guys that I had a chance to shoot, become good friends to, and actually just sort of talked me into what I need to do, how I needed to do it, and it went from there. It's one of these things that I can never tell anybody how blessed I was. Mr. Norman Bagwell, the best friend a man could ever have and general manager a man could ever have. One of my first Bagwell stories would be that Mr. Bagwell saw me outside of the patio in the smoke area one day. I was standing around out there doing one of the smoke breaks that people took at that time, and he said, I asked me, how do you like working here? And I sort of told him, hey, I love it here. It's a great job. I really enjoy being here with you, Mr. Bagwell. He said, well, look here, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, what's that? And he said, look, you need to tone down calling some of these women out here honeys and babies and sweethearts and all that. And, some of them are taking offensive to it. And so if I just wish that you can work on, I say, hey, I don't mean anything by that. I mean, that's just me. That's, you know, that's the way I go, you know. He said, yeah, I know that, and that's why I'm just having this little talk with you. Well, the word got out in the station that he had this talk with me. And I kind of mentioned it to somebody, and you know how things are in the business. The next day I come to work, and I walk into this coffee shop, and every woman in the coffee shop was hollering, hey, baby, come here, sweetheart. I want you to sit next to me. I'm not offended by you calling me baby or sweetheart or honey, and that's the kind of place I work. Norma Jean, I mean, everybody was like that with me. One of the biggest and greatest incidents I'll never will forget about Mr. Bagwell. Mr. Bagwell had this big station meeting, and he was in there and he was telling us that we're gonna have to get rid of Norma Jean, and we're gonna have to do some things with the ladies in the coffee shop, but we're not gonna fire anybody. We're just gonna have to get rid of that coffee shop. You know, when we first started this place out here, there was no restaurants. We got plenty of restaurants now, and so what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring us some food machines, and they're gonna come in every day and put in sandwiches and put in fresh drinks and desserts and what have you. So, and needless to say, everybody just is quiet. I mean, it was so quiet in that place. Yeah, you know, you just didn't talk when Mr. Bagwell was talking, I guess. It was just quiet. And so everybody was just started looking at each other, and I held my hand up, and Mr. Bagwell said, yeah, what's up, Oliver? I said, well, you say you're gonna bring in fresh fruit every day and what have you? He said, yeah. I said, well, does that also include watermelon? And everybody just died laughing, and so I sort of broke the ice during the meeting. And he said, yeah, we're gonna have fresh watermelon for those who want watermelon. I said, okay then, well, I think that I might be able to go along with the machines then. Well, about 2 or 3, 4 weeks go by, and I see Mr. Bagwell, and I say, Mr. Bagwell, where's that watermelon? You got the machines in. I haven't seen no watermelon in the machines yet. We're gonna have some watermelon. I'll see to it. Another week or 2 go by. Well, it got to the point that I don't care where I saw him. Chamber of Commerce meetings, if I was down covering it, if I was at the Capitol and run into him, wherever he may be, I might just say, Mr. Bagwell, still waiting on that watermelon. So we go on like that for about 2 or 3, maybe a month or 2. But one day, Daryl Barton and I, we were out covering a fire. And we could see the smoke from the distance, and I mean, it was going, it was cooking. So the closer we get to the fire, we get our cameras and everything ready, and about time we're about 1.5 blocks away from the fire, and Jack Ogle come on the two-way radio. KKP 837, Class 16. Yeah, go ahead. Oliver. Yeah, Daryl with you? Yeah, I said, well, we need y'all to head back to the station right away. We're less than 1 block away from the fire. Let us get some B-roll here. No, forget the fire. Get back right now. What in the world is going on? So we turn around, head back to the station. Oh, about 5 or 10 minutes into the drive, you come on the radio again. Where are you? Say, we're about, 3 or 4 minutes away from the station. What's going on? Don't worry about that. Just come on in. Daryl, I want you to drop Oliver off at the front door. Oliver, they need you upstairs. They need to go upstairs, see Mr. Bagwell right quick. And Daryl, you bring the car around, and I need to talk to you. And both of us are wondering, well, what in the world is all this about, to be called off a fire? So I go upstairs, and I'm sitting outside in the front office there, and I can't think of the lady's name now. At the time, who was the secretary, said, just a minute, Mr. Bagwell will be with you in just a minute. So he comes out of the door, out of his office, and look at me, and I'm sitting down. He said, oh, you here? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, come on in. So I go into the office, and Mr. Bagwell says, have a seat. And I have a seat there, and he says he has this little button up on his desk, and he pushes the button, and once he pushes the button, the door shuts behind you. Bam! Oh my God, what in the world is going on? How you like working here? I said, I love it. I mean, like I said, this is a great job. You like Ernie? Ernie treating you okay? Yes, sir. And what about Jack? Is everything okay downstairs with you? I said, yeah. I said, well, tell me this, and why in the hell do you make so much trouble around here then? About this time, the phone rang. And I know it's that he answers the phone. He says, whoever he's on the phone with, hey, let me call you back. What's that area code? So that gave me a clue. I'm in hot water now. This man is dropping a long distance call to talk to me. And if you didn't know Mr. Bagwell used to be a government agent. He guarded the President of the United States. Stern eyes, long bushy eyelashes. I can see him right now. And he's saying, well, why in the hell do you make so much trouble around here? About this time, I could see every bill. I just bought a house. I hadn't been in my house 2 months yet. I could see all these bills just flashing in my face. Everybody says when you die, you see your life flash in your face. I saw the bills flashing in my face because I knew I was getting fired. He said, well, come on downstairs here. I'm just tired of this, huh? I've come all the way downstairs with him, and he's talking, and I have no earthly idea. I mean, I don't know. From walking out of his office and going downstairs, I do not remember one step. I just remember walking into the coffee shop, and everybody in the shop, the whole entire station, everybody was in the coffee shop hollering, we got our watermelon, we got our watermelon. And man, they had a joke on me. Mr. Bagwell had gone out and bought about 4, 5, or 6 big watermelons, put them on ice, and we just had a big party at the station. Those are the kind of people that I work with, kind of people that I loved. You heard me talking about earlier about my house that I purchased, and so there's a story even behind that. I come to work one day, and I was working at that particular time the evening shift. Walked in. I just got a phone call before I came to work denying the purchase of my home, and said that they couldn't approve my loan. So Jack Ogle saw me, and he said, man, what's wrong with you? I said, well, Jack, I just got turned down on buying a house that I've been trying to get. What? Says, you got bills or something? I said, no. He said, I just bought a house, man, and I got 3 boys eating me out of house and home. Oh, everybody in town. They didn't turn me down. And I said, well, you know, you make the big money, man. He says, well, tell you what, you go on to work. Don't worry about it. Just go on to do your job. I said, okay then. So I went on to work. Next couple of days later, could have been even the next day now that I think about it, I get this phone call from a guy downtown at American Mortgage. Used to be in the First National Bank building. That's where they were located. Said, Mr. Murray, said, I'm sorry to bother him. Said, yes. Said, this is whatever from American Mortgage. And I said, yeah, how can I help you? Said, well, I know we called you yesterday and we were wondering if you can come down and meet with us. Really like to talk to you about this loan again. I said, well, you turned it down. Said, I know, but I need you to come down and please come down and talk to us. And I said, okay then. Said, when is a good time? I said, well, you got to go to work this evening, so it'd have to be tomorrow or the next day. Well, what about tomorrow morning? Can you be here about 9 o'clock? I said, yes, sir, I'll be down there about 9. I said, okay then. So I go downtown to the bank, American Mortgage office, and he said, I need you to go with me around the corner here. So I go around the corner with him, and we go to the, I can't think of the name of the company now, but they were the one that approves your loans, FAA, whatever they used to be called. I can't remember it off the hand there. But I went into their office, which was right at Robert S. Kerr and I think that was Robertson, I'm not sure. And walked in there and they said, you Mr. Murray? I said, yeah. I said, well, they're waiting on you. Will y'all gentlemen going in? I walked in this big old conference room, big old table, about 3 or 4 guys sitting around the table, and all 4 of them stood up at the same time. I thought I was general in the Army that just walked in for a conference meeting. Said, Mr. Murray, we're so sorry. Your loan has been approved. Don't worry about it. We apologize to you if we've caused you any nervous moments or anything like that. And I said, well, thank you very much. And I walked out. Well, several years later, I started thinking. I started putting 2 and 2 together. You know, when things happen to you, you don't know why they happened or what happened, but you don't really think about it. I was just so glad to get into the house. Well, I started thinking, well, now I told Jack Ogle, I guarantee you, Jack Ogle called Norman Bagwell. Norman Bagwell called E.K. Gaylord. E.K. Gaylord said, that's one of my people. He will get his house. That's the bottom line. That's how I ended up with my house. So, again, family, taking care of you. Well, several years later, as they say, time moves on, maybe I had transferred over into news by now. And very, very small news department, very, very small news room. Jack Ogle was at that time, assistant news director. Ernie Silks, the king, as we prefer to him, was the news director. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Bob Berry had come to work with us by then. I don't think he was a part of the meeting though. And Bob Dotson was there. Excuse me. Charles Hoff, Daryl Barton, Randy Joe, George Tomic, and myself, and one other person I don't wish to call his name at this time. But anyway, we were asked the question by Ernie, how do you guys feel about having a woman coming to work here in the newsroom? And every last one of us say, yeah, why? I mean, what's the big deal though? Then I think that also we knew who the woman was going to be also, which a lot of us had run into out in the street covering news stories. At that time, she worked for a radio station, KTOK, I believe it was. Her name was Pam Henry. And I thought about it years later about being in the newsroom where a bunch of men voted whether we were going to hire a woman to come to work with us. And isn't that something? So I can imagine what the vote might have been like when they ask, how do you feel about having a black come to work for you in the newsroom? This is the type of history that I had a chance to live and see at WKY. To be there and to see a young lady like Pam Henry come to work there for us, who I think was one of the most beautiful people in the world to work with. Matter of fact, everybody was. I mean, I can't say enough about people like Daryl Barton, good friend, always there for you, teach you everything that you need to know about shooting. I mean, there wasn't any jealousy in that place. I mean, it was about learning. It was about showing the next guy what you know, how you know. It was competition, all the time competition. Competition to see who's going to get Photographer of the Month, Photographer of the Year award. It was competition, 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 which made good journalism, good journalism, good journalism. I don't know what they call this stuff today, but believe me, it's really not journalism as far as I'm concerned. Later on, after being at WKY and shooting film and working at the state capitol for years, we come up with this great invention called tape, the so-called minicam. WKY was not the first station to get a minicam. Believe it or not, it was competition, who will remain nameless. They were the first to get a so-called minicam. But the day they run back into the station with a tape, throw it in the machine, non-edit, and say, this is the news and this just happened. Norman Bagwell come downstairs and said, we're going to be live. We're going to be live tomorrow. While they run back with their tape, we're going to be live. So Ron Turner, Lee Ellis, Papa Hines, he was the engineer. Turner was the reporter. I was the photographer. We're downtown at a parade, and we went live. We were the first news station to ever go live out of the back end of a truck. And that's where the news come first, where the live shots started off at. We started doing the microwave shots before any other station, like 6, 7, 8 months before any other station. We carried to their live while they were bringing in their so-called tape. We took our minicam along with Jerry Love came to work for us about that time, about 2 or 3 months later. Jerry Love was the engineer that built the first live truck at Channel 4, along with Willard Hines and myself. And that's what I mean when Mr. Hines taught me a lot of things about engineering, about microwave signals, about the audio and how everything worked, how the electronics part of television worked. And to be there and to be at the beginning was a great thing. I got more job offers to come to work at other television stations than you'll ever shake a stick at, because I had the knowledge to run live shots and to build trucks. And I refused them all to stay here at, a little incentive too on my paycheck, but I really wanted to stay in the first place because this was home. And that's my good Ernest Shilk story, besides the one that went to Washington, D.C. and don't say it's not true now, to cover Carl Albert, one heartbeat away from being the President of the United States. He was Speaker of the House at the time, so Ernie and the old news director upstairs, WKY Radio, Ed Hardy, they're going to go out and cover this big heartbeat away from being the President of the United States. They've been up there maybe 2 or 3 days. At that time, we had to fly back all of our film and everything, and I guess Ernie got kind of excited. And at that time, we had the cameras with what you call the Mickey Mouse ears on it. He unscrewed the camera, the side of the camera, pulled the film out, put it in a film can inside the black bag, and I know that he took the side of the camera and put it in the film can also and shipped everything back. So we don't know how he made it the rest of the time he was up there, because there's no way you could load film from that time on. and we had to set another camera up. So that was the greatest laugh the whole newsroom had on him. This man here always had his I's dotted and his T's crossed until he went up to Washington, D.C., and then we found out that he can make mistakes just like the rest of us could. Good man, good man. Love working for him. He's still the king. Director by the name of George Donnelly. You know, I think he's one of these type of guys that I always will say a man's man. A man that knew his job, and you knew he knew his job because he never got excited about it. He's just one of the quietest and most easygoing directors I ever had a chance to work for. I'm doing my first OU game, and I don't remember the game. I was just so glad to be out there running the camera, doing football, doing a live football game, and George Donnelly is the director of the game. And at that time, we had the old black and white cameras where you have your 3 lenses and you have a turret. You had to squeeze the trigger and switch over to the lens, whatever lens, whether it be a close-up, a wide shot, or whatever lens it was. And George would just talk you through it like it was nobody's business. He always was 5 shots ahead. Camera 1, okay, here we come to you, camera 1, stand by. You hot 1, 2, give me a wide shot of so. Okay, focus it up there 2. Here we come 2, you hot 2, 1, go get my hero for me. There you go. Coming to you 1, come on, tighten up there, tighten up. Boom. No hollering, no screaming. That was George Donnelly. At the end of the show, light that big old cigar and smile all the way home. Ronnie K, great disc jockey in his own mind. And I laugh when I say that, but Ronnie K was a great pleasure to work with. I mean, to do the scene was a thrill. I mean, you know, you could talk about your Soul Trains, and you could talk about, I can't think of the other boy was national, what his Dick, whatever his name was. But anyway, Ronnie K had a local show called The Scene. And man, we would started setting up for that show on a Friday morning. We started setting up, and the scenery went from the bottom floor on the ground all the way up in the air. And those studios are pretty high. I guess those studios must be maybe 100 feet in the air. So that means that the scenery of the scene would go up at least 75 to 80 feet. And man, when the kids come in there and we started shooting that scene, it was a sight to behold. All those young kids over there, black and white, listening to Chuck Berry. Every big star that came through Oklahoma City had to stop and do their thing at the scene with Ronnie K. I'm just sitting here thinking about some of the people that I used to work with, like Daryl Barton, one of the greatest photographers that ever lived, to hold a camera, and some of the shots that he's come up with and some of the things that he did as far as journalism, as far as the camera goes. Daryl was, before he retired, one of the best cinema photographers that this country has ever known, and that's why he won the award as being a news photographer award 2 or 3 times. He's won that award on a national level. One of my best remembrance of Daryl was we had and I don't remember exactly where it happened at, but we had one of these hippie get-togethers out in the field somewhere, and Ernie Shilks sent Daryl down to cover it, and he was shipping back film. He shipped back 50 feet of film with nothing on it but the hood of his car, but you could hear the music in the background, so I guess Daryl was having just as good a time as the hippie was at that time. People like Bob Dodson. Bob Dodson and I covered an event once. The first time we really got into a tight bind was when we covered the Langston uprising at the state capitol. And Bob Dodson was out there at the capitol with me covering that story. And at that time, the audio camera was in a great big old box, and we were so big we had to roll it around on a 2-wheel dolly. And I'm the photographer, and Bob is the reporter. And I got this big cart, and we're trying to get upstairs and get a sound bite with the governor about why they fired the president of Langston University, and all these black kids was out here on the, from Langston University, was on the front steps and getting ready to march, getting ready to storm the Capitol and come in through the door. So we've gone around through the back there on the side door, and I got my bag and I'm pushing this cart down the road, and about 4 or 5 big football players, I presume they were, because they was a lot bigger than I was at the time, come around the corner and want to know, hey man, why in the heck, why, you know what, is that black guy pushing the camera, the white guy's walking around behind it, what's going on, what's the real story here? That's the problem with this place. And here come my boy Bob Dodson behind me. Let me have the cart, man. Let me have the cart, Oliver. Give me the cart, Oliver. Give me the cart. And that was one of my most fond memories of working with Bob. Then we had a chance to go and do Through the Looking Glass Darkly. That was an adventure. That was the ultimate, to go out and shoot that documentary. I don't care what anybody say, I'm going to take the glory into the day they put me in the ground. Ernie Schultz, my news director, sent me to Douglas High School in Black History. At that time was Black History Week. It wasn't Black History Month like it is now. And the young people at Douglas High School had a great big old book that where a student would flip the page and someone would walk out of that book talking about the black history as far as the United States go. And at that time, my grandfather was still living, and he came in a covered wagon into Oklahoma. He was in the first land run coming out of Guthrie, Oklahoma. His daddy, my great-great-grandfather. But my grandfather was about 5 years old, and he was telling how it was to grow up here and live in a dugout, and my aunties and uncles and all the things that they had to go through. So I was real fond of history. So I come back and I told Ernie about, I think that we need to do something on black history of Oklahoma. Well, Ernie said, okay, yeah, sure, and he blew it off. I didn't think any more of it. I mean, I only been in the newsroom maybe 5 or 6 months at the time. And so a few weeks later, Bob Dodson come to work for us, and I guess we've been working together now for about maybe a good year, or a little bit longer than a year. And Ernie called a newsroom meeting, and we was making some changes in the newsroom. I think at that time he announced that Olga will be the news director, and Ernie is going to be ahead of communication broadcasting, which ahead of the weather department, news department, and sports department. And it was all going to fall up under his umbrella. And at the same time, he announced that Bob Dodson and Oliver Murray would be doing a documentary on black history. Bob Dodson came up with the name of the script and everything, and that's how Through the Looking Glass Darkly got started. It was a great adventure, a great thing to go out and be with Bob, to do this with, one of the best storytellers in the world. Again, everybody know him because now he works for NBC, been there for 100 years, looks like, but he's still the greatest in my eyes. Bob Berry Sr., my man. Bob Berry Sr. was one of the greatest men that I've ever had the opportunity to be around, and I've been around some good men, but he just falls right up there at the top. And his beautiful wife, Joan. It was, my first wife was named Ann, and we all went to the Big 8 tournament, which is now the Big 12. We went to the Big 8 tournament, basketball tournament up in Kansas City, Kansas. And we made a mistake that night. I had all the camera equipment, and Bob let me out at the front door of the stadium with Joan and my wife Ann at the time, and the ladies went on where they needed to go to, and I went on, started setting up my camera. We shot the whole entire game, and we had the first game luckily that night. And then again, maybe it wasn't so lucky. Again, we let Bob go and park the car. It took Bob Berry, the whole entire second game was over with. Everyone had come out of the stadium, and that's how he found the car. He had to stand out and wait until the parking lot clear to see where he parked the car. So the whole time we were sitting inside about ready to go out and send the police for him because we thought he'd got hit in the head because Kemper Arena is not, in Kansas City, is not in a good part of town. Bob Berry was the kind of man that do anything in the world for you at any time he could possibly do it for you. I can't say enough of good things about Bob Berry. And then we have Brad Edwards. Brad, just a good partner, because we sort of came into this thing together, worked together, grew up together. Saw me get married, stood with me in my wedding. Brad is just a great all-around guy. Never can say anything bad about Brad. We put ourselves in positions. One bad position that we put ourselves in, going into your corner, we got this phone call from one of the Vietnam veterans. And he claimed that he had a bomb under his porch, under his house. And he wanted to talk to Brad Edwards. So, needless to say, here we go into this guy's house. We don't know if he had a bomb or didn't have a bomb. Police department is outside. We inside. We went down there. At that time, I don't know where our head was. We went inside this man's house, and this man is telling us all about how the Veterans Administration is getting over on him and not helping him out because he was in the Agent Orange. And Brad and I both being a veteran, we kind of understood where he was coming from, and I guess that's why he wanted to talk to us. But man, that was one time I can feel my toes crawling up in my socks. I was so darn scared, and I just knew that we wouldn't get blowed up that day. That's the kind of danger that Brad and I used to get ourselves into. But it was still working with family. You do what you can while you can when you're with your boys, when you're with your family. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you and tell you about WKY Television.